Hello and welcome to the second episode of Daily Cricket Presents CricTalk. I am Mohammad Isam, ESPN Cricket Info's Bangladesh correspondent, and with me is CricBuzz's Bangladesh correspondent Atif Azam. Atif bhai, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Atif bhai, we just witnessed the end of the T20 World Cup for this year. It was a cracking tournament. There were lots of big results. There was a lot of upsets, heartbreaks, all of those things that we want in a big tournament. It's a long tournament as well. But everyone is talking about India's celebrations because they're the crowning champions. Let's talk about the final. I want to know your first reaction when Heinrich Klaasen was going after India and then suddenly everything started to change after he got out. What were you thinking at that time?
I think that the final was a cracker, no doubt about that. But there was some tactical brilliance by Rohit Sharma. I mean, when Heinrich Klaasen was going in that way at that point of time, they just stopped the game for a few seconds. Pant was having some issues and stuff like that. And that probably changed the momentum because right after that break, the momentum totally shifted to India. So they know how to hold pressures, they know how to handle pressures, India. And probably the best thing of the final was that catch of Surya Kumar. It was one of the best catch I've ever seen, and more so when you're playing a final in that jam-packed stadium. And Surya picked that catch. That was a brilliant effort. And the best part was that he was very cool. He was not overexcited seeing that one, because if Miller had got that a six, then Miller is such a kind of a player that he knows how to get those runs in the next 5 deliveries. He was taking the game deep because he had his confidence in his ability, because he had done this with Titans, and in a lot of franchise leagues. So I don't think that Miller was doing anything wrong. Someone was suggesting that probably Miller could have started a bit earlier and things like that, but he knows his game very well. But when those kind of there's a phrase in cricket that catches win matches, and I think that was proved. And another thing that really I was very happy to see was it was not that 250 scores cricket. Even in Cricket Info, I was reading a piece that even a small total can be entertaining in T20s.
Yeah.
You probably have read that. So that's the major talking point, that T20 cricket doesn't need big scores. T20 cricket needs competitiveness, and it was totally competitive tournament.
No, it's interesting to see how the two finalists came into this situation. I mean, India are probably the best team in the world in white ball cricket, sometimes in red ball cricket as well. You can say the same thing. They've made to 3 ICC finals, the World Test Championship final, the 50-over final, now the T20 final. So India was always going to be one of the top contenders right from the word go. South Africa was a huge surprise, I thought. I mean, they won all the matches through the group stage, through Super 8. And then there was a situation when South Africa needed to win their last game to get through to the final. And then through to the semi-final, I'm sorry. And then when they got to the semi-final, Afghanistan just imploded on that really, bad wicket at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Trinidad. So, Atif bhai, what I wanted to ask you is, because you follow Afghanistan cricket so closely, we talked about India and South Africa making it to the final, but they were the biggest surprise of this tournament, not because of how they played. I mean, we understood that they were becoming a big white ball nation for the last 4 or 5 years, but to make it to a World Cup semi-final, that is a big deal for Afghanistan, who started playing in 2009, 2010.
Yeah, you can say that it's a surprise, but not surprising to me, because I've been following Afghanistan cricket for a long time, and they had a very big plan. They went to West Indies 10 days prior to the tournament. They had a very big camp there to get adjusted to that situation, conditions. And another thing is that this time Afghanistan cricket really wanted to show the world that they are coming up, because last time when they lost to Australia you remember in the last World Cup, that really hurt them. So that win against Australia really, that was the game-changing moment for Afghans. Because I was surprised the way Afghans outplayed New Zealand. New Zealand is a big white ball nation also, if I'm not wrong. So the way they played after the match against New Zealand, they started to have this belief that it's high time that they can come up with some kind of show that Afghanistan is not a fluke. It's not a team with flukes. I think, and what I really was impressive, if you notice that what we used to know about Afghan and this cricket is not the same. Earlier, we used to know that Jajai or someone would come and implode, make a 10 ball 30, 35, and then go out. But the way their openers, both Gurbaz and Ibrahim, the way they played and the way they complemented each other, that showed that this nation is on the right track. On the right track, at least in the white ball cricket. I'm not talking about red ball cricket, and I don't think that they care much about red ball cricket. They play only 1 or 2 tests, 4 tests in a year, so they don't care. But the way the openers set up the game for them, it was really impressive. And that is why they lost the game against South Africa. Their middle order was never tested. If you noticed, their middle order was never tested. The middle order always came when there was 10 overs. Unlike some other countries where middle overs are coming into the power plays, their middle overs used to come very late. So, and I was talking with one of the Karim Janat, who played for Afghan. Yes, I was talking about it with him, and he said that I'm not unhappy with my performance because I didn't get the chance. In those kind of wickets, you at least need few deliveries to get into the groove.
Right.
And Jonathan Trott, I must admit, with all the players that I have spoken to, Jonathan Trott had given them that belief, and the way Bravo came in for the Afghan pacers, because Isam, when Afghanistan started playing cricket in 2014-15, we always used to say it's a spin nation. Now is the time when Afghanistan is not playing all their pacers. They didn't bowl Karim Janat, who is also a pace bowler. They just couldn't. They played with Naveen, they played with Faruqi, they played with Azmatullah, and there's a fourth pacer is Naib, Gulbadir Naib.
Yeah.
So they're a team who is having 4 pace bowlers, along with Nabi, Kharoti, and Rashid. They have variety of options if you consider the other teams. So Afghanistan never looked to me that it's not a country, it cannot go beyond the group stage. But the thing is that from this point of, from where they are now, from where they have came so far, their major talking point is now that they have got an aim. Right. They have got a benchmark. Karim was telling me that if we can reach the semi-final now, we can go to the final. Nobody will say that going to the final is, because now they have got an aim, because they're so. But anyway, Afghan was the biggest surprise. I think that some other teams also stood very well. Like Nepal played some very good games. Even if they are associate nations, they played some good games. They couldn't, but they showed, because the match against Bangladesh, the way they fielded, I think it was one of the best fielding effort. If you had said all-out effort, fielding effort, it was one of the best fielding effort in the whole tournament. So, and now Isam, I want to talk about how do you see South Africa's heartbreak? Because they are a nation that has gone through a lot of heartbreaks, if I'm not wrong.
Otherwise, South Africa used to be a neutral's favorite for a long time. I mean, they have their own following back home, but cricket is not really number one sport. But if you remember from 92, they've been making World Cup semi-finals or knockout stages for a long time. 92, the famous 99 game, 2015 when Grant Elliott played the shot. I mean, I think after 2015, they had that belief broken, that the team was also breaking up with all their quotas and all those things that they had, the political things that they had back home. So that the team was breaking up. And to be honest, after I witnessed them in the 2019 World Cup, I mean, they had their moments in that World Cup. I never really thought that they could all come back together. I mean, I actually thought that Quinton de Kock had retired, I thought. But then it was just for the 50-over game. Now we are hearing that they're trying to convince him to stay back probably for a few more years. I mean, they want him to stay back. The point being that they have those big players. And with Janssen and Riza Hendricks coming in, then you have this pace attack with Anrik Nortje. You have Rabada, who is now about 9 years. We've seen him debut in Bangladesh. And then you have Heinrich Klaassen and all these batsmen. They needed a person or a captain or someone who could lead them together. But these are all superstars when they're playing all these leagues. Say they're playing IPL, they sometimes play the BPL as well. And they're Big Bash and in the 100 as well. They're very good in those tournaments. but they needed someone to get them together. Aiden Markram was that guy. I mean, his record is great in ICC tournaments. He's been an under-19 World Cup champion, I think 2014, when Mehdi Hassan Miraj was also a player at that time. They needed a good captain. They needed a direction. So I thought this heartbreak of losing in the final, I mean, it's a very close final. Nobody wants to lose a final like that, especially to India. But I honestly think that this should, just like you mentioned with Afghanistan, South Africa and Afghanistan have a very different trajectory in cricket.
Yeah.
I mean, Afghanistan is different to everyone, even Bangladesh. But I thought South Africa's progress in the tournament is something to learn from for a lot of smaller teams. That if you can get it all together, I mean, you can have good players, you can have average players, but if you can get it all together, you will have a formula which can start working in different conditions. Look, they played well in New York, where the wicket was two-paced. They used the spinners very well. I don't think Shamsi came in that early, but Keshav Maharaj bowled well against Sri Lanka. Then the Bangladesh game, I thought they managed that. Bangladesh didn't do the chase that well, but South Africa were on top on most occasions. You never really thought that South Africa would lose, even in that England game when Markram took that great catch at the end. You didn't really think the South Africa were out of it because of the confidence that they had on their captain. I think that was very important. The captain, he wasn't scoring runs. And I don't think back home in South Africa, they're questioning Aiden Markram's captaincy because he hasn't scored runs, but the team has done well. So that is another cultural thing. I mean, they have that culture of long-term captains. You remember Graeme Smith, Hansi Cronje, these were long-term captains. A.B. de Villiers, Hashim Amla, Faf du Plessis. They know how to back their captains. So when the captain was in place, and in South Africa, leadership makes a lot of difference. You could see that Markram was hurting, that he was not scoring runs, but look at his fielding, look at his bowling. He was involved in that game. We talk about smaller teams. We just talked about smaller teams. And with South Africa, we mentioned Afghanistan. We have to mention the elephant in the room now. We've been running around what we want to talk about, ultimately, because we are a show that is coming out of Dhaka. We're very close to the Sher Bangla National Stadium. So we have to talk about Bangladesh. We both share a lot of WhatsApp messages that we can't really share with anyone because we are very frustrated with certain things that we see, especially in the last couple of weeks. Atif bhai, firstly, that game against Afghanistan, I mean, first tell us what happens when Bangladesh plays against Afghanistan? How do you're not a supporter, I know, but how do you plan your stories? You have to write on Afghanistan as well. I'm assuming. I'm sure you have to write for both teams.
Probably that's the only day when I'm a totally neutral reporter.
Right.
On any other day when Bangladesh is playing, I'm based on Bangladesh. But that is one day when I have to see both sides of the year.
What was that game like? What did you think?
I was really disappointed. I was really disappointed not to see Bangladesh losing that game. I was disappointed that Bangladesh gave up that chase. Even if Bangladesh got out in 8 overs, say, scoring 80 runs, it wouldn't have hurt me. Bangladesh was always on a brink. While they were chasing, I think that some of the areas that I cannot forget on that game is that the batting order. Isam, you have been playing cricket for a long time. You know how the cricket goes, how it goes in the field. When someone is scoring runs, you must allow him to score runs. Give him that opportunity. When the after two openers, even if they can argue that Shanto scored 240s in the previous game, so they can. But at number 4, I would have preferred Tawfiq Jiddar because he was the one who could have perhaps changed the momentum of the game. You're keeping back Shakib and Mohammad and bringing up Tawfiq. It could have been a better choice because he could have taken that game from the south because he would have loved to take the challenge and go in the power plays, isn't it? So that was one area that I think that just after Shakib got out, the Afghanistan's body language changed.
Big player. First ball
Shakib got out. The Afghanistan body language totally changed after Shakib got out because they know that Shakib is someone, if you talk about his records, is someone who can take this game away. Just after Shakib got out, because what I think, even if you see it in Afghanistan's point of view, if Tawfiq had come earlier, then at the back of their mind, they will always find that Sakib is still there in the dressing room. So the game is not. So these are little things that could have been changed. But if South Africa, Afghanistan didn't go to the semi-final, then I think that then it would have been great heartbreak from them. The way they played the tournament,
True.
because without winning any matches, just by chasing
One in 12 overs,
and if any team goes to the semi-final,
Yeah.
then that's not fair. Now, Isam, I want to ask you about the one thing, that how do you see the reaction of Bangladesh team following they just made it to the Super 8. I mean, the famous press conference of Chandrika Hatul Singh, where he mentioned about bonus. And how do you see that this, do you feel that this really had an impact on the players? If not on the players, I think that it can be one of the way of changing the diversion from the players so that the expectation level goes on. But how do you see this? How do you see this, and how it came up in our cricketing culture?
See, Atif bhai, when he made that comment, it was before the Australia game. We're just about to start the Super 8. I mean, you didn't need to see too far to think, to really go deep into what he tried to mean. He said, it's a bonus period for us because reaching the Super 8 was a big deal for us. Now, of course, reaching the Super 8 is a big deal for Bangladesh. But then in the next game, the way the openers batted or the way the whole batting lineup functioned, you realize that is the exact message that he sent to the team, that this is your bonus, nothing to lose from here. There are two ways to play when you have nothing to lose. You play for yourself or you play for your team. I think Hatu, I don't want to fault him for saying that was a bonus period, but I think it's the team culture, and I'm sure he has contributed to that as well. He's been around for more than a year now. So the question now is, did Bangladesh have any hunger left after reaching the Super 8? Was firstly, look, when they got beaten by USA in that T20 series, the course correction was beating Sri Lanka. When they beat Sri Lanka, we were all, I mean, those living in Bangladesh or those who follow Bangladesh were like, okay, relieved that this team didn't embarrass itself further. They won against Nepal and Netherlands. We know what happened against Nepal. It could have gone either way. Netherlands, still a close game until Rishabh came and bowled well. South Africa, they could have won. I think because of how we react in social media, I'm sorry I'm saying this. I mean, I should not be saying it about a professional sports team playing at the highest level. But I just feel that they also, they take the temperature from social media, the cricket board and team management, and then they set their goals according to what the public likes or dislikes. That can't be it. For many years, we saw India being very happy when they go to the World Cup and beating Pakistan. And they've always beat Pakistan in the World Cup. From 92, they've been beating Pakistan. And there was this a bit of narrative that, oh, we've beaten Pakistan, we don't need to win the World Cup. But that's what a layman will think. That's what the person standing outside the Mirpur Stadium will think. Not the people sitting inside those boardrooms think. They are going to target the final. Whether they are Bangladesh or Uganda or Singapore or South Africa, I do not care. You are playing a sport, you're playing a World Cup. Smallest team, biggest team, middle team, doesn't matter. You have to target the knockout stage. I think that's where Hatu was honest when he said bonus. But I just feel that this is the team culture. I think no one else should be bothered about it. That's what the team wanted. The way they played against Australia, against India, against Afghanistan in the end, that's what they wanted. They wanted to correct their flaws. The openers wanted to get some runs so that people's mouth would shut. If that's your target, that I'll just do the bare minimum and I'll just get out of it, then it's fine. And honestly, I think this is the first time Bangladesh has actually articulated their target, that we are only good enough, or we think we are only good enough for this phase of cricket. We are not going to be as good as Afghanistan. We're not going to be as good as South Africa, India, or England. We're not going to be as good as them in T20s. They've cleared it out.
Isam, what do you think is Bangladesh's biggest takeaway from this World Cup? Do you think that the revolution of, you just mentioned about the pace bowling, the pace bowlers did well, you mentioned, but do you think the revelation of Rishad is the biggest takeaway for Bangladesh from this World Cup?
Absolutely. I think he's one of the top wicket takers of the tournament. We never imagined that a Bangladeshi leg spinner taking 14 wickets in the World Cup, and not just taking 14 wickets, bowling beautifully. The googly worked, the slider worked, the leg spin was brilliant. And in tough conditions, Shanto, I think one of the few things where Shanto got it very perfectly right was using Rishad. He used him in the death over sometimes. Against India, it was a tough situation. He bowled well. And in the other matches, in the group stage as well, he bowled very well. I just feel that one of the things that Hatu is really good at is being aggressive. That comes from, as you mentioned before, that he was very aggressive before. Why isn't he aggressive now? He is aggressive. He just doesn't have the tools for it. So when his bowling is doing well, when he has when he has Rishad, when he has bowlers like Tanjim Saqib, when he has Mustafiz, he is going to bowl well. He's going to lead that pack. He's going to guide it to an aggressive front. But that's not true with the batting. So I think, of course, Bangladesh's bowling really came through. I was looking at their average, the collective average, superb. If you talk about each bowler, Mustafiz probably learned a few things from IPL, bowled well. Tanjim Saqib kept Shoriful out, which I feel is a huge compliment to this bowling attack, that they had the luxury of not using Shoriful. As we mentioned, Rishad bowled well. Taskin also bowled well. I thought Taskin led the attack very well. He was very fast. He was quick. He beat the bat a lot against good teams, bad teams, against all types of teams. But then, Atif bhai, we heard this incident a couple of days ago about, earlier in July, I think on 1st of July, that Taskin overslept, missed the India game, and that's why he didn't play the India game. And we heard it just a day before the BCB had their first meeting after the World Cup. Just very suspicious timing, don't you think?
I think it's suspicious timing, but it's not surprising. Every time we come back from a World Cup, we always have a scapegoat. This time probably Taskin was unlikely to be the scapegoat. Because in the game against India, Taskin did go to the field before the toss. He overslept. He mentioned that he overslept because he just could not get the alarm on time and things like that. But he went to the field before the toss, unlike the way it was projected by the certain quarter of the board. And he was not picked due to combination.
It was a decision taken before.
It was, because if that was not a decision taken before, then they could have gone for like replacement for 24 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a decision taken before. But the way it came out, the proportion just before the board meeting, I think all the attention went towards Taskin instead of all the attention should have gone for the whole, how Bangladesh fared in the World Cup. I think that's not done. That's not proper, because when you leak this kind of news, you know how it works in the social media these days. Taskin is currently in Sri Lanka playing the LPL. And some of the international cricketers are asking him that you didn't go to the field before the toss.
How embarrassing for him.
How embarrassing this is. And it looks bad. It looks bad in the sense that, and it came 12 days after the match.
The incident happened.
Yes. So what really wanted to, whoever leaked it, he leaked it and his purpose is served.
In a big way.
In a big way, because all the attention went away to Taskin instead of, all the attention should have been in the whole team performance.
Like particularly on that day, why did Bangladesh open with Saqib and Mahdi? That should be the first question. That strategy of picking Jakir over Taskin, that should be the second question. I think after the match, Saqib, who opened the bowling, he questioned it in a way that he has not done before. I mean, last time Saqib, I don't remember. He doesn't really question team decisions that much in the public. You had Tamim Iqbal speaking
Probably he knows about the team decision. But this time he said that he was not aware what decision was taken by the team.
Yeah.
So what Isam taking Sakib or Mahmudullah, players like Mahmudullah for experience.
What?
They should get the most out of him.
Yeah.
Ask him what can be done.
Yeah.
Because he was saying that ideally we should have batted first.
Atif bhai, leaving aside the team, they played poorly in the World Cup. I think 3 wins, not great. Then they failed to go to the semi-final. They had a golden opportunity, and even if it was, they're calling it the best. I was reading David Ham's interview today with our very own Jubair from Cricket. It was a very good interview. But he said the first thing he said was, we had a great World Cup. I think a batting coach can't really say that, but he said it.
More so after the batting has.
Yeah, and then when people actually have these lines ready, your coach, your batting coach, your everyone, you tend to understand that there is no accountability at any level. I don't know what happened in that board meeting, but when Papun Bhai came out and spoke in the media conference, which by the way, you were there, I wasn't, I heard the whole the whole audio. It was quite surreal. I felt it wasn't becoming of a press conference with the board president present. And no fault of the journalists, they were asking the right questions. There was a lot of deflection, a lot of strange comments, a lot of laughter. It sounded like an audio version. To me, it sounded like an audio version of a Kapil Sharma show. I'm sorry I said that. But you understand that the board is quite happy with the World Cup. It's just a tick box exercise, like a corporate, like we've done these things. We don't need to win more than 3 matches. Then people will have expectations. What's the point of giving people expectations? We don't need to play the semi-final. I am assuming that I'm giving them the benefit of doubt here. That okay, they mean the best for Bangladesh cricket, but their understanding of the best for Bangladesh cricket is way below what the fans expect, what the rest of the world want. I mean, I think after that cowardly act in that semi-final, not going for the chase, I think the world cricket will not look at Bangladesh cricket anymore with any sort of sympathy or any sort of following. There's not going to be any more following. Afghanistan will have a following. Nepal will have a following. So BCB always wants attention. Bangladesh cricket always craves for that attention. Our players will go and play the IPL. People will talk about our players. When someone in a commentary box mentions some of our players, we are very proud of it. That day, Simon Dool actually raised a very important question.
Yeah.
And it sounded bad, but I agree with him. What was the whole idea of playing that game if you're not going for the semi-final? So I just think that there's a whole lot of lack of accountability at every level. And if they think this is the best for Bangladesh cricket, we are not the ones to say anything, but we can talk about it among ourselves. And when the rest of the world will question those decisions, I think BCB might think about it. To end this episode, just 2 other things. Actually, last point. I'm not going to raise any more questions about the press conference. Atif bhai, thank you very much. We had a great productive show, but I'd like to end the show on a sad note. We just got news that Nafis Iqbal, the former Bangladesh batsman and who was just with the Bangladesh team as their one of the managers with the team, he has become very ill this Friday morning, and he's in the hospital. Nafis bhai has been a great servant of Bangladesh cricket for many years. He's been around for so many, I think a couple of decades now with the under-19 team. He scored some runs for Bangladesh, and then he's come into the team's management. He's the elder brother of Tamim Iqbal. So we really wish him all the best, a fast recovery. And we want to end this show on a hopeful note that Nafis bhai can be among us very quickly. So there we are. We are at the end of our show. Daily Cricket presents CricTalk with Atif, Azam and Mohammad Isam. Until our next episode, I hope to see you all again. Thank you.